Hello and welcome to this video on the industrial extraction of iron. This process takes place in a blast furnace, a diagram of which is shown on the left hand side, as I'm sure you can see. I mentioned at the beginning of this series that very few metals are found in nature in their pure form, but are instead found as metal ores. The ore I gave as an example was actually iron ore, or in other words, hematite. A variety of reactions take place in the blast furnace. One being the displacement reactions, as we will see later on. There's reduction and oxidation in terms of iron and carbon. Well, the reduction and oxidation of iron and carbon in terms of oxygen, I should say, sorry. There's a neutralization process where at one point there are acidic components which are eventually neutralized. Of course, as you could probably expect, there are also combustion reactions taking place, which is how the blast furnace itself actually heats up. Certain components or materials are required for the extraction of iron, one obviously being the iron ore, the compound where iron is found along with its impurities. On top of this, you also need a fuel source. This fuel source is called coke, which is it provides carbon for the reduction reactions, which we'll have a look at. As you can see on the slide, it produces the necessary reducing agents. Limestone. It helps remove the impurities. Like I said in the past slide, there are acidic components toward the end of the extraction of iron, and limestone thermally decomposes to form something called calcium oxide. The neutralization process produces something called molten slag. It is described as a waste product, but it does have its own uses, one of which being in infrastructure, so in making roads. And of course air, which provides oxygen, which is of course essential for combustion. So, following the diagram in the top right hand corner, we can see that the iron ore, coke and limestone all enter the blast furnace through the top. We have hot air, which is pumped through the bottom to provide the oxygen for the combustion, and slag and iron leaving the blast furnace at the bottom, and waste gases exiting through the top. Iron sits below the slag as it is more dense. So the first reaction occurs when the hot air is pumped into the blast furnace and reacts with the carbon in the coke to produce carbon dioxide and the heat. This is of course the combustion reaction. In the second step, further coke is added for the reduction of carbon dioxide into carbon monoxide. This is the first reduction reaction we can see. Referring back to the redox video, we said that reduction in terms of oxygen was when oxygen was lost from a compound. The third step is where we actually obtain the iron. Iron 3 oxide is reduced using pure carbon to give iron and carbon dioxide, and this is the second reduction reaction. The final step is the addition of limestone to remove impurities. As I mentioned, calcium carbonate, limestone, thermally decomposes to calcium oxide, which reacts with the impurities in molten slag, so this molten slag can be used for other things, like I said, in infrastructure, making roads, for example, and this is the chemical equation which follows. This is the neutralization reaction. To consider where to place and build a blast furnace is very important in maximizing the efficiency of the site. One thing to take into consideration is how close to the coast to build it. This is essential for imports and the exports. Import is important if you are getting materials from overseas. You need easy access to a port for that to happen, as well as exports, so distributing the product, so the iron, overseas. Another thing to consider would be close to an inhabited area, be it a town or a city. Obviously, housing for the employees. Avoiding built-up areas. This is important as air pollution, noise pollution, and obviously play big factors in the environment and in your own lives. Final thing to consider, close to roads and railways. This needs to be considered, of course. Exports are good for distributing your products overseas. Roads and railways will be within the country. This video has been on the industrial extraction of iron. I hope this provided a good insight and was easy to follow. Next, we will discuss the transition metals and their properties. Thanks very much for watching.